The Human Rights Campaign is thrilled to present our National Visibility and Impact Award to the Emmy and Golden Globe nominated hit FX series, Pose. As the show enters its final season, we could not be prouder to honor this incredible show, its creators Ryan Murphy and Stephen Canals, and its cast and crew. We thank them for the visibility they bring to the LGBTQ community, particularly Black and Latinx transgender women and people living with HIV. To share more about the impact of Pose, please welcome two of the Human Rights Campaign's youth ambassadors, Deandre Mitchell and Avi Panchenko.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. It's an honor to be here presenting the National Visibility and Impact Award to the cast and creators of Pose. You know, this show resonates with me so much. As a young queer person of color, I faced rejection from my family and built my own family in the trans-dominated drag community in Hawaii. These beautiful, fierce humans became my greatest champions and challengers. We push each other and we praise each other, we call each other out and we call each other in. But most of all, we make ourselves visible so that others can find us and become part of our family too. Every single episode of Pose, I saw my chosen family up there on screen.
Like Avi, this show became a mirror for me. As a young Black Latinx trans woman, I was so fortunate to have a support system I needed at home. But I didn't see anybody else in the real world that looked like me. I can count on one hand, heck one finger, the number of shows that were made by Black and brown queer folks. The cast of Pose, the writers, the producers, gave us and the world a glimpse of full humanity within each episode. We need that. The door has been busted open from Pose and will never be closed. I am so grateful for that. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from Pose.
The category is
Pose! FX's Pose is a wonderfully crafted, beautiful, and meticulous show, especially in its recreation of New York in the 1980s.
When you look to the past, you can learn a lot about your present. HIV, AIDS.
Fight back, fight AIDS!
Poverty, harassment, and violence are things that, they were dealing with in '87 as well as today.
Trans people are as old as time.
Focus, children. It is time we remind the world who we are.
I knew that this show was important and that it was relevant, that our audience, LGBTQ people, needed to know that their lives and their stories have value.
Shows like this that gives you a glimpse into the founding mothers and how the founding fathers came along and how they created these children in order for us to be here today. It's not just one story. And I feel like the world needs that in order for them to have more of a human experience.
Just be yourself.
We must rally up all citizens to make an America filled with dreams, an America filled with all shades, and America that fights for all.
So somewhere along the way, we're taught to hate. That's not a natural state of who you are. We're not gonna be here forever. So while we're here, can we just have fun and just enjoy each other, enjoy life?
Ryan Murphy's Pose continues to make history, with the groundbreaking FX series being the first TV show with a mostly trans cast to be nominated in any category at the Golden Globes. The cable network drama, which explores the ballroom culture of 1980s New York, already broke the mold by featuring an unprecedented number of LGBTQ talent in front of and behind the camera, including 5 transgender women of color in series regular roles.
What we gotta say, Pose, it's making television history.
It's about love. And we talk about love, but we forget about humanity. I am a human being.
I mean, it's a really important show to a lot of people. This is the first time that so many people are seeing themselves represented on TV,
And once again, we witness history unfold. The Emmy goes to Billy Porter.
the category is love, y'all, love. I hope that young queer people of all colors can look at me and know that they can.
The landmark win makes him the first openly gay black man to win the Emmy's Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series category.
I thought it was important that we memorialize people who have given me access to be able to be, the first trans woman of color to be hired in a Hollywood writer's room, the first to write and direct a television series, and to be on a television series and to share it with 5 Black and brown trans women of color who are the stars in the center of our show. Yeah, the fact that we have love stories on our show, the fact that we're not just merely points of trauma. And so here we have 5 women who have different dreams, who have love, who want desire, who want to be desired. And I hope that it doesn't only educate and inspire and entertain, but it also moves people to care and hopefully do something.
I demand that the world be our safe space. May we go out in it and endeavor to be, and be seen as our full, beautiful selves without fear, without apology, and without the pressure of doing.
And the best thing we can do, I think, on a TV show is be an eye-opener. If you see someone on television, if that character can be your friend, it creates empathy in the world. Yeah. And I feel like that's what we're trying to do with Pose.
Hi, I'm Stephen Canals, co-creator, executive producer, writer, and director of Pose. Thank you, HRC, for recognizing the cast and producers. It's an honor to be receiving the National Visibility and Impact Award from the Human Rights Campaign, especially while you have Alphonso David as president, the first Black man to hold this position in the organization's 40-year history. Visibility is defined as the state of being able to see or be seen. In spite of being on the front lines of the equality movement, we queer and trans people of color have been invisible for far too long. With this award, what you're doing is saying, we see you. Now, I have a confession to make. While I have publicly said that Pose was conceived as a love story to queer and trans folks of color, to the ballroom community, to my beloved New York, and to myself, the truth is that Pose was born out of selfishness. When I wrote the first draft of Pose, the prompt from my writing instructor was to write the show you want to watch. We were bidding adieu to 2013, and we Black and Latinx, queer and trans people weren't anywhere. We were still 6 months from Time magazine declaring the trans tipping point. And so I forged ahead with the first draft of a story about a young boy kicked out of his home for being gay, who was taken in by the mother that we all deserve. I wrote that first draft in 10 weeks, and I spent the next 30 months revising that draft, tweaking it, refining it, as I stepped foot into 166 meetings with hundreds of executives not quite seeing me, not quite seeing the vision. I was asked repeatedly, where does a show like this live? Who is the intended audience for a show like this? Pose was too much. It was too urban, the sensibility too queer, and it was a period piece. It took the tenacity of Sherry Marsh, the very first producer, to say, this is a show and we will get this made, to get that script to one Ryan Murphy, a prolific visionary, a true disruptor who immediately saw the vision and believed in it. He knew that we, who had been living on the margins for far too long, needed to step into the light. We needed to be visible. Pose made history before it ever aired, announcing that with its authentic casting, there would be not 1, but 5 Black and Afro-Latinx trans women in series regular roles. And it's that kind of visibility that shows others what is truly possible. My collaborators, from Janet Mock to Our Lady J and Tina Mabry, have dedicated our lives to telling the stories of the LGBTQ+ community and to ensuring that the education of the next generation includes LGBTQ+ stories. I have been blessed enough to work with this incredible cast and crew to increase the visibility and representation of trans and queer, Black and Latinx experiences while centering our often overlooked history. It is a rarity to find a story like ours told on a platform as large as FX. It just doesn't happen enough, not yet. But I'm hopeful. What a privilege it has been to tell this story, our story, a human story, rooted in universal themes of love and chosen family and resilience. I have known for years that this story needed to be told, and I'm so humbled that I've been able to help tell it alongside the talents of these amazing, fearless performers. I'm amazed how this cast has inhabited their roles so fully. The reason their performances feel so real, so lived in, is because they are dynamic, compassionate, fully realized people. And your visibility is going to save lives. It already has. I think about the young queer Black man who told me he went and got tested for HIV for the first time after watching our show. I think about the 60-year-old cancer survivor who was inspired to embrace her truth after watching our show during her treatments. I think about the mother who told me she wished Pose existed 20 years ago because it would have inspired her to be a different kind of mother. And she gets to right her wrongs through her relationship with her grandchildren. And I would be remiss if I didn't say there are still so many in our community who can't be visible. Visibility comes at too great a cost, and they can't afford to take that risk. I want to honor those individuals who can't be vocal by being a voice for them and saying, we see you and we honor you too. Finally, the real power, the real impact, the most important element of visibility will always be the action that it inspires. Trans people are still fighting for their right to exist. There is an unprecedented amount of legislation targeting trans youth nationwide. What are you going to do? Watching Pose isn't enough. If you love our beautiful Pose family, then you must show up to oppose hateful legislation that limits our community members' access to healthcare, to employment opportunities, to housing, and protections under the law. Contact your governors, contact lawmakers, make your voice heard, take action. It is through visibility, through representation, that we can change the world. And it is through praise from organizations like the Human Rights Campaign that the world may see just how important our stories have always been.
Steven created the show, and everyone's contribution to it is such an intelligent way, a genius way to remind people who they are and their value.
Now people get to look at each and every last one of these women on the show and see that we can be exactly who we want to be, and also the things that we inhabit within us and what we've always had.
The main thing that I take away is that we truly have created a body of work that exalts love and understanding, and what that does after we leave set, what that does after the last final season of Pose. It carries on.
Visibility is important because it inspires the next person, and that person will inspire the next person. It's a ripple effect that keeps going on and on.
You think you've seen it all when you start off in 1974, but all of a sudden it's like a whole new revolution. It's amazing, and it's just been such an honor to be a part of this experience.
So in reflection, Pose is visibility, it is love, it is family, it is validation, it is acknowledgement. It is truth, it is in your face, and it is us showing the world that we don't need labels because we are talent.
Thank you, HRC, for this Visibility Award. And, like Kamala Harris says, we may have been the first, but we most definitely ain't gonna be the last.